Hello, welcome back to Becoming Better Together. I'm your host, Brie, and today we are joined by a very special guest and one of my good friends, Gao. I will let her introduce herself and explain how we got connected in this wonderful world of coaching in our mastermind program.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Brie, for having me on. I'm super excited to dive in and I feel like we can talk forever. So my name is Gao Peraino. I'm a life and mindset coach. We met about maybe 2 years ago, I believe, through the mastermind, through another program. So for me, I started coaching because I wanted people to know they're not alone through my journey. And if I knew of coaches, I would have freaking hired one, right? So I started coaching so I can give back and help people so they can be confident, use their freaking voice, which is their superpower. So many times we are told to shut up, like dim our light. And I'm here to help people shine bright no matter what anyone fucking thinks. So
Thank you so much. And I think we did meet about 2 years ago. And so we were in the Rob Dial coaching community together in his mastermind. And we got to stay together in Austin. When was that? 4 or 5 months ago, maybe. Yeah. And really, I haven't had an adult sleepover in my 30s at all. And so we got to be little kids again and have this adult sleepover. And we got up and we just were supposed to do our homework each night. I'm saying supposed to in quotes and do this journaling. And we just sat and we chatted until 1 or 2 in the morning most evenings. And we just had a ball.
Yeah, I loved it. It was like the highlight of my trip because I haven't done that in so long. And that was like and then I didn't even know for you until like we were talking about it. That was like out of both of our comfort zone. I was like, okay, I'm in a room with someone who I haven't, like, I don't really know. We met through Zoom, but we haven't met, but it was great. And I was like, I'm just going to do this and see like what comes out of it. Because the first trip, I will call my husband and debrief and like overwhelm him because he's like, what's going on? So it was so nice to like debrief the whole experience with someone who was right there with me.
Exactly. And so I'm really glad you brought up your husband. I actually want to ask about that. Since you started coaching, have you noticed the conversations we have in our little containers? Then we have to go talk to other people that don't understand mindset or are literally looking at us going, like, what the hell do you do? What is mindset coaching? That's basically telling people we're space aliens, and people are like, I don't know what that is.
Yeah.
How different are your conversations with your family, with your husband, with other people that have seen you grow throughout the past 2 years on this journey?
Yeah, it's a great question. So with my husband too, I've always just kept it really real, like what I'm going through. And I'll call it diary of the mouth, where I'm super excited, everything just comes out. And he's been very open to understanding, like even if he doesn't understand like what I'm talking about, but I try to be mindful to try to communicate in a way where he will understand, and he's on his own journey too. So it makes it a little bit easier too for me. But the hardest part is meeting people who don't know the journey at all, who don't read, like self-development books, who don't understand this world. That's where it's the trickiest. And at first I would just go out and tell the whole world, like, I want to share this message with everyone. And then I started to realize, like, I'm looking kind of crazy. They were like, I can really feel people's energy very, very easily. And they just look at me and they're listening. And I'm like, well, this person doesn't want to listen to me. That was a struggle for me now to learn like boundaries, like, okay, keep the certain, the conversation, like, lack of better word, surface level, because it's too much for them. Like, it doesn't mean they're not open-minded. They don't understand.
Exactly.
So like, what are you saying? So I just keep it more in simple terms when I'm around other people. And I never share more unless they ask. I had to learn that though. At the beginning, I'll be like, blah, 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 everybody. Let me tell you about these amazing people I met in my trip. And they're like, looking at me like, okay.
Sure. Right. Cool. Your little cute coaching thing. That's what I would hear a lot. Your little side business. That's cute. That's interesting.
Yeah. And then I always just like explain to like people who know me, like I've changed because of these people, because of the people that I'm around or the experiences. And people are always trying to tie like, progress to an object, right? Or like a prize. But with what we do, there is nothing that is tied to. It's happening within.
Exactly. So let's explain a little bit about your changing and like kind of both our backgrounds for what got us into coaching and personal development in general for people that are still just not awake to it yet, I'll say politely, and just where we were at maybe 3, 4, or 5 years ago.
Yeah, for sure. So for me, I was living on autopilot. Like, I'm like, wow, like this is it. This is life. This is what I was like raised to, and like, I mean, from my mom didn't know any better, like this was the American dream, get a job, get married, have kids, but I don't have any yet. But on top of that, it's just like, do this, live this life. And that's what I was doing. And I'm like, this is it. Like this is like, there's more to life than this. So what am I missing here? Like, how do I like live in peace? How do I be happy? Because this is what I thought happiness was. Get a full-time job, buy that car that I want, buy that house, get married. But then there's still this empty feeling. So that's why I was living on autopilot, and autopilot turned into, like towards like drugs. And I was like, well, you know what? Maybe I need to live a little bit because I'm so like stuck into this structure of life. Maybe that's a missing piece. And like anything you experiment and you're like, it was fun, no regrets. Not that I'm promoting anyone to go out and do drugs or not serious in life, but it opened my like eyes to new things, but also it became also a very bad thing to a point where it became my numbing mechanism, drinking a lot, smoking a lot of weed, going, festivals are awesome. I'm not going to lie. It was a great time in my life, but comes with festivals. Everyone knows comes with other stuff. And then I'm like gaining all this weight and I'm just not happy. I'm like, what is going on with me? This is not how I've been. Well, what has changed? I started reflecting, which I never ever did in my life. I just always like go, chase the next high, whatever that is. Maybe that next thing from Amazon, that next position. It could be anything. It doesn't have to be guinea high. It could just be anything like that. Or let me get that next pet or the next jacket. And then like for me, I had abundance, I still do, of like materialistic things. And I'm like, work hard, make money, buy all these things that I don't fucking need.
Right, exactly. And it wasn't making you feel any better. And so I was going through the exact same thing. So we were the two people as well that still had full-time jobs throughout most of this mastermind and have both recently left to just pursue coaching full-time. And that was such a huge mental switch. Holy cow. So tell me a little bit about like what that's been like for you.
Yeah, what a roller coaster ride. Like that's the like simplest way to explain it to. But like leaving, all I ever wanted was like to leave the day job, to be able to do what I want to do. So then when I got to that, I was like, fuck, what now? Like I have all this time and like I thought like, oh, it's going to be awesome because all this stuff is like, clients just going to come and I'm going to have all this time and my new schedule, all I ever wanted because I'm so tired of being told what to do. Well, you would think that it would be that exciting, but when I got that, I struggled so badly. Like, what do I do? Like my world, right? For so long, you're so used to this 9 to 5 and then it's gone. Like, what do I do now? Okay, I don't have to report to anyone. I report to myself. So I don't have to do anything, but I should do things. Right. So it's such a roller coaster ride of emotions. Like, am I making the right choice? Am I around the right people? Friends, like, and then mastermind wise, like, is this the right path for me? Am I still in alignment? What the fuck is alignment? Right. So it's like such a roller coaster ride. But I mean, it's been a good 2 months now. And for me, it like, I feel a lot better now, but at the beginning, you feel alone. Like, here we go again, right? Like how I felt before, even though you're part of this mastermind, but it's like, I share it. If other people are doing great, I don't want to bring down the group, but if actually be my authentic self, if I don't actually speak upon it of what I'm going through, but that just shows you like the progress, the journey changes, right? I mean, 2 years ago, right, where we thought we'd be like, look back like, oh, that was nothing. Now, fast forward, it's like, wait, now you're going through a different bump in the road. A new learning experience. So for me, it's been a game changer, but I've learned so much, like leaving that, and my mind was so clogged up with like stress that I didn't get to see new opportunities. I didn't get to reflect. I didn't get to live. Now we have different stress and different problems.
But it's so funny and so weird to think how those have evolved though, too. 3-4 years ago, it was searching and doing some of that internal reflection for the first time in, for me, a long time. I hadn't been asking those questions, but I was doing the same thing. I was numbing, I was buying things. So I thought it would fill the void in my life. It's like, oh, I have these nice materials to show for it. And it wasn't really doing anything. So I started asking those questions. Okay, then we get into coaching. Then we suddenly have purpose. We have passion again. Things start to work. But the questions come back, don't they?
They do. They come back so quickly. It's like as if they never left, you know? They come back hitting you right in the face. And then you're like, what the fuck am I doing? Like, is this the right path? And the one big lesson that I learned, and I want to share definitely with your listeners too, is be open to change. Like,
Yes.
it is okay to change your mind. It is okay. Like, don't look at it as going backwards. If you end up, taking a couple steps back to revisit something you thought you processed, but then it's creeping back up, it's because you fully haven't healed from
Yes.
it. So allow yourself to go through it again. Because I used to think like, I already processed that. Like, I'm a failure because I have to revisit it again or have to talk about it again.
Mhm.
We have to look at it from a mindset of, hey, we're in a different spot now, and pieces of that story is coming back because we fully haven't healed and we weren't ready to heal that piece. So,
Exactly. Exactly. And so sometimes those triggers come up and it is that little moment of wait, but I thought I changed. And then we can get really hard on ourselves and then we can go into cocoon mode of, oh, here I go again. I've definitely gone through that journey myself,
mhm.
especially being an entrepreneur, leaving the full-time job and suddenly being in this world where we can make all the decisions, we can make all the choices. No one's really guiding us anymore. And that comes with an entirely new set of questions, an entirely new set of internal reflection and pressure.
Absolutely. And that's where the discipline, right, comes into play. Because
Yes.
like start to think about, like when you were super disciplined because you had to get a project done. So now it's the same thing, just that you're your own boss, right? You have to get up, like, post if you're going to post, reach out to those people if you're going to, whatever it is, right? Because you think about like Rob said, for like you work so hard for someone else, why are you not working hard for yourself? And it's like that's fucking true, right? So
Yeah,
you think
exactly.
about that, and it's like the same way of thinking when you work for someone else, carry that over to your own business. And that's something like I was like, yeah, you work hard so you get those projects done, you follow up on those emails. It's the same thing with your business, except there's not someone that for sure hounding on you in your back. You're your own person hounding you,
Right.
like, hey, get your shit done, or
Exactly.
nothing gets done.
Exactly. So how much have you learned about yourself going from, okay, I'm in this place, I want to make changes, I'm going to start this business, I'm going to help people, now to really blossoming into business owner? Like what kind of a huge mindset switch has that been? And for other people, what advice could you give them?
Yeah. Oh, great question. Yeah. Gosh, for me, it's just being able to look at things from a different view.
Mm,
Like really like, okay, the world isn't ending. And that was my mindset before. When something went wrong, I'm like, oh my gosh, like fuck, everything's going wrong. Everything is just gonna be terrible for the rest of the day. I always use I always use the example of traffic. I would drive to work and I'm like, gosh, like this fucking day, like all this traffic, and that it'll ruin my whole day. So the biggest thing I was like, if I'm in traffic, all right, universe is teaching me patience and it's
mm,
okay. And I'm like gratitude. I'm grateful I get to sit in traffic. I'm grateful I
mm.
get to have a car to sit in traffic. Before I'd be like, this fucking shit. Like, and I would be so angry and like, like driving like crazy through like the freeway. Like, what good does that do? And what energy am I getting off to all the people around me? Versus now I'm like, you know what? It's my fault for not leaving early enough. And I'm going to learn this lesson and it's
Exactly.
okay, and really from my mindset, it's just really like taking a calmer look and stop being reactive and
Mm.
really just like, okay, take a deep breath. What is actually so? What can I control instead of letting things that happen in my life control me?
Yes. I'm so glad that you said instead of being reactive to everything,
Mhm.
because in the past, that was me too. I would just react. I was kind of just floating through the clouds, letting things happen to me, not really changing my direction in any way. It was like if I was an airplane, I had no idea I was. And then one day it's like I woke up and was like, oh, I can turn on my navigation and go this direction.
Exactly.
What do you know what really caused that switch for you that finally you're like, ah, this is my direction now?
Yeah, good question. So for me too, like I know I think back to like what was that one thing that was like, go get it to fucking together, right? For me, like honestly, it was just I was like partying, 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 right? And then what really hit me is me losing my engagement ring.
Oh,
Yeah. So I was so lit. I'm not gonna lie. I was like so drunk and so high. I passed out, hit my face twice, and I still didn't stop. I still was like, yeah, I'm gonna be the life of the party. Like anyone who knows me knows, like, go to Gao. She has we, she's gonna party, go party at her house. Like that's what I wanted because, from my own childhood trauma of like wanting to be liked. So I turned into adult, was like, everyone like me, I'll have every drink. come hang out, come party. Don't
Yes.
even worry about paying me, which sounds kind of ridiculous, right? Because alcohol is expensive. So is
Right.
weed. So what happened was I was on a trip and, doing me, right? Like being life at the party, having a good time. And I knew this is also me learning to follow my intuition. I knew I shouldn't have taken my ring with me, but I was like, no, I'm going to be responsible. Well, clearly it wasn't. And the worst part was like I party for like a couple days. And like the night before we left, I lost it. And the last thing I remember was taking it off. At least I thought I did, to go shower. But I heard all my friends laughing. I just wanted to hurry up and shower, go out and party. So I put my Apple Watch on, but I apparently didn't put my ring back on. And it was on the bed. Then I went to sleep, left. I didn't even notice until I was on the road back home. And I was like, oh my gosh, my ring's gone. And my
Mhm.
husband was like, what are you talking about? I was like, how did I not notice all night, partying, cleaning the Airbnb,
Mhm.
using my hands, and I never ever noticed. And I freaked out. And I was like, oh my gosh, my husband's gonna leave me. Like he spent all this money, and we've been together for 14 years. So we were very young, like I met him when I was 19. So I'm like, he worked so hard to get this ring, and I just lost it. And that's when like my whole world, I was like, oh my gosh, it's something that means so much to me. I could just lose like that because
Mhm.
I won't slow down and make a change. What the hell else am I going to lose before I stop? Am I going to lose my marriage? Am I going to lose like my house, my friends, like everything? Like what? God, what is going on? So that's the moment I was like, homie, girl, you got to slow down. Like, no one can tell me any different. Like I've always been
Right.
that way. Doesn't matter who you are, my parents, my significant other, my siblings. I was just like, I'm stubborn. That's why I always said, I don't
Yeah.
give a shit. So that was the huge moment when it was a turning point for me. Like I need to do something.
Okay.
And I need to change my life and I need to figure it out. But I'm also someone who doesn't like to ask for help. This is why it
Yeah.
took me so long. I mean, it's been a 7-year journey and we met 2 years ago. Just think about in between that, I've
Oh my
been working
gosh.
on it by myself, not
This is
getting
why
that.
we get along so well because we are so similar. And so I want to circle back to the childhood, why that made sense for where you were at in your life too, because I was the exact same. Come to
Mhm.
Brie's house. I was always the queen of the tailgates. Everybody would come to my place. We would have all the people. We would have the jungle juice. We would have all the liquor. I would buy everything. Everyone would come to my house almost on like clockwork. Friday
Yeah.
at 4 o'clock, we would get out of work early. Everyone would be at my house. Saturday, everyone would be back at my house. And it was
Yeah.
just, I was really shy growing up. But then my sister, I have an older sister,
Mhm.
she went off to college and suddenly the person that spoke for me for most of my life was gone. I had to find a voice. I had to speak for myself. And then I became pretty social because I wanted friends, I wanted to be social. And then I overcorrected so hard. And I became that person that I called it collecting the stray dogs,
Mm.
but they were my people. I would collect all the strays. I would collect them all. They would come to me and they would feel safe in my home. And that's how I protected people because I wanted people to not feel like I had, I think in the past, being afraid to be alone and not having that voice and not having those people and that protection around me. So I filled it with a bunch of partiers. Yep.
Exactly. I love that you use that analogy, like stray dogs, because like that's how I felt like in high school too. For me, I was always like, I would never pick a group. I want to be friends with everyone,
Yep.
like I never wanted to be like, oh, you're part of like the cool kids or the popular kids. Like not, I wasn't really popular to be honest, but I wanted to be popular. Like we all
Yeah.
did, right? But I would hang out with everyone, people like, why are you hanging out with the emo kids? Like, well, because I'm kind of emo too, but I kind of want to be popular too, trying to figure out who you are. And I never wanted to like exclude anyone. I've always been that way because growing up, being bullied, and you said shy. I was also very shy, being the only Asian kid, in school. And I was like always being bullied. So as I got older, and especially in high school, I'm like, no, I know what that feels like. It feels like shit. So I'm gonna include everyone
Exactly.
because it sucks to be that person. And it makes sense. Everything in our childhood affects how we are now and all the trauma. So like you saying you were shy. So for me, I still remember this, like my second grade, we would journal over the weekend and we
Mhm.
will always have to share it. And I hated it because my teacher will always pick me and I will always say no. I was so shy. I would never read my journal, like answers or anything. She would have to read it for me. And
Aw.
people thought I didn't speak English for the longest time. And I'm like, no, I do. I just don't like to talk.
Right.
Like, so people who know me now, I'm like, bullshit, gal. Like you talk all the time. But no, you really have no idea. Like I used to not talk at all. I'd just be like the quiet kid. Like, don't
So
talk to me, don't make fun of me. Like, hey, what's up from afar if I want to say anything.
learning what we have learned about mindset and why, like how we form identity and how we become the people that we are, how much
Mhm.
just understanding that, how much has that helped you then kind of make peace with the different phases we've gone through in life and just understand that this is what it's like to be human and we can make peace with all these phases.
Yeah, I know, definitely. So it's really just slowing back and understanding like what is mindset, right? And how do you start to shift that? Because a lot of people hear mindset, and they're like, what the fuck is that? Like, okay, that's cool. Are you, like, is that therapy? Like, no, I think that's like
Or
the first
we just think positive all the time and it's like, oh, that's not it at all.
I wish it was that easy. It's like I always tell people it's a choice to be positive, right? Negative shit happens to us too. So for me, it's like really understanding what is mindset and where is your mindset to begin with, right? Are you, and like easier to explain that too, because you might hear them like, what the fuck does that mean? So really, like, are you someone who's naturally gravitating towards negativity all the time? Like, look at your group of friends. Are they always talking shit? And I'm really talking about this from my own experience. I was always around people who was just talking shit about other people. And then I would just join the bandwagon. And then I'm like, wait a minute. Like people used to do that to me and I hated that. So what am I doing? Like, two like wrongs doesn't make it right. So I had to make that click in my own mindset. Like, this is not okay. But for years, I was that way. So for anyone listening, like start to look at yourself. Like, where's your mindset? Are you someone who actually like starts to look at things that from like, oh, this is the good out of this bad situation? Or are you someone who I used to be like, the whole day is fucked now, and you're around people who's just talking shit about people all the time, and you're feeling like other people's cup from that, and you are all excited and you laugh about it. So if you're someone like that, start thinking, why are you around those people? And what about talking shit about other people makes you feel good? Because then what are you actually lacking? Because you're projecting.
Exactly. And so it's the biggest, this is the key here. It's when you start to finally pause and you take that moment, instead of focusing on everything external, everything that's going on around you, what they're doing, what they are saying, you start to finally pause and you start to look inward and say, wait, do I even want this? Is this even me? Why am I even here? And as soon as you stop numbing and start reflecting, that's when everything starts to change. And that's when mindset, you can start to understand what that is and what that journey is like to want to improve yours.
Yeah, exactly. Like I like how you explain that, and just a simple way is just like shifting your perspective, right? How you see something is, something real simple, like every day, like, okay, how we can talk ourselves into anything and talk ourselves out of anything. So just like a simple workout, right? You can be like, yeah, I'm too lazy. Or you can look at it like, hey, this is actually helping my health. I'm going to get up off my ass and I'm going to move for me. But if you're working out to look good for your significant other, and then they don't actually notice, you're going to be pissed off, right?
Yes.
That's why it's so important to look within you. Like, hey, I'm doing this for me. I'm shifting my mindset for me, and my significant other just benefits from that. Right.
Mm-hmm.
Like for me personally, my husband's like, you going through this journey has been the best thing ever, because communication wise, it's been so much better. Because how I used to be was like, no, it's my way or the highway. Because growing up, it was never my way. Growing up, I was always forced to do things that I didn't want to do. And sometimes it was, kind of like out of my mom's control, just still growing up in a divorced home. It's like, we don't have any other choice. Like, you don't, but how do you understand that if you're 7 years old? You
Yeah.
don't. So growing up, I was like, no, it's my way because I'm an adult now, or the highway.
Yeah.
And like, thank goodness for my husband, he's very understanding. He's been with me for a very long time. And he's always been like very calm. And I've always was reactive. And
Yes.
he said was like, I need a minute. And I used to be like, why do you need a minute? Like, let's talk about it now, So like working on me has helped my communication with him, with anyone in my life, to understand like their perspective. So maybe you're listening to this in your relationship, you're like, yeah, my significant and I, we don't get along at the time. But slow down. And it's okay if they like, hey, I need a minute.
Exactly.
Let me breathe.
Yes. And everybody processes things so differently. And I was like you too. There's a problem, I will find the solution immediately, right now. And that doesn't work with everybody. So people need more space to think and to feel and to just be in whatever is going on. And that was something I've learned so much patience in this world, because I was not patient. And I would tell people I'm very patient. I'm getting better. But it has taught me a lot of patience. And you're so right. Relationships have just been deepened so much by doing that internal work.
Yep, exactly. Because like now I can meet someone and I'm like, okay, like I actually can tune into just, hey, let me just listen to them.
Yeah,
Let me just hear them out. I'm not standing here, like, even if I'm networking, I don't have to stand here and say, well, I'm selling you this and then this. No, it's a relationship. Let me just get to know you. You get to know me. And really, that's how you actually sell authentically. Just get
yeah,
to know the other person, and maybe you don't click. That's okay. Now you know, right? Like
yeah.
you won't really know unless you give it a try. So that's really how I see it. It's just, hey, stop making it about yourself. Let's get to know other people and like, let's see where it goes. Yeah.
Exactly. And it's curiosity over expectation.
Yeah.
Let's just be curious about this new person, this new potential client,
Yeah.
this whoever. Let's be curious and see what comes instead of expecting so much and waiting for that, whatever, that result, whatever we're looking for.
Yeah. Yeah. Because what is it? What's it saying? Like, be interested instead of trying to be interesting.
Yes.
Yeah. So when I went to a networking event recently, that's literally what was my intention in my mind if I walked in. And the connections I made was like, oh, so much better. And I think I really didn't talk about myself much, maybe 2%, honestly. And I just learned so much about other people. But like, that's the goal. My goal was just to get to know people, you know what? And guess what? I actually listened to them instead of trying to tell them all about me.
And how many networking events have you been to where it is the other people just shoving a card in your face and being like, this is about me and this is all the things I do and I'm going to sell you this. And you're like, whoa, hold on.
Right. I'm like, okay, that's nice. Like, all right, put you in my pocket, but then at the same time too, I think like, that may be the only way they know how to communicate. That's like how they were taught, right? And like they haven't gone through our journey. So I don't expect other people to understand like how we can communicate with them. So I'm like, I'm going to control how I react and I'm going to take control of the conversation, even though they don't realize that I am, because I'm just actually letting them listen. Like I'm listening to them and letting them just say whatever comes to mind instead of like, hey, like it's not a coaching session, but a lot of times I'm just like, hey, how are you doing? And one of my girlfriends says, Gal, it's your superpower because she's met some of the people I met and she's like, how do you know all that about them? I'm like, they just told me, and I'm like, I love it. And she's like, but how did you get that out of them? I go, it's not about getting anything out of anyone. It's about just learning about them
Yes.
and their story. That's all it is. Real simple.
Because what's the
Like,
point of networking? Is it to get a sale or is it to go meet other humans? Go talk to other humans about what they're going through in life.
mhm. Absolutely. And that's why I love it's like I love meeting new people. And one point, especially both of us being shy, like I would not expect to like go out and meet all these people that I don't know, just going up to a table. I'm like, hey, how's it going? Like this is my name. And like, what do you do? So immediately first thing I ask is what their name is and what do they do and tell me about themselves. I just say my name. I'm not even like, hey, I'm a coach. I'm a life coach. Like, you want to know all about me? I don't even do that
Right.
until they ask. That's if they even ask. Sometimes they don't. I just say, oh, by the way, in case you ever want to talk more, here's my card.
Right. Boom. That's so
Yeah.
much more. And so I want to circle back to something you said a little bit ago too about noticing people's energy. Tell
Hmm.
me what that means to you.
Yeah. So, I've noticed this even more and more recently. And I've always noticed this growing up too, where I can be in a room with someone or a Zoom or anything, and I can really feel what they're feeling. And it used to overwhelm me because I can feel their sadness and I can feel their overwhelmed. Even if their words out of their mouth is like happy things, but in their facial expression is like all good, but I could really feel what they're really feeling. So I met someone, a couple of people recently, and I was like, I'm more in tune into this. I always have been, but I just never pay attention. And so a lot of times when there's things that happen that you can't explain, our mind as humans, we're trying to justify it. Like, no, you're just losing your shit. Like it doesn't mean anything. You know what I mean? As humans, that's what we do. So I've always noticed, like when I'm around people, like I'm an empath. I can feel what they're feeling. I can read the room really easily. I can walk into a room like there's fucking tension in this room.
Yes.
Okay, this is going to be an interesting meeting, Or I walk to a room and I'm like, that person's in a good mood. That person's in a shitty mood, and I don't say it out loud. But the more I reflect now, I'm like, I've always been able to pick up on vibes and
Mhm.
end conversations too. Like this person's done talking to me.
Yeah.
I can just tell like they're not interested. They're trying to walk away. Okay, let me let them go. Or sometimes I'm like, let me just ask one more question and see what response I get. So sounds kind of woo wooey, but like really being able just to tune into someone like who's really interested. I can feel like their energy and how they really feel in that moment. the easy way to explain without getting too woo-woo-y.
No, let's go into the woo, because that's something before coaching landed in my lap, I like to say, because it is one of those things. I don't think I actively pursued it. It just all the things aligned for me to be in this Zoom right now today with you. I really believe that.
Yeah, for
So
sure.
I'm getting so much more into the woo. Explain, I know you are too. So you're maybe shifting a little bit in your coaching niche, or give me a little bit about what you're going through now in this chapter of your journey.
Yeah, for sure. So, I've always told people I've always had like this sixth sense, like I could always like, and I wouldn't always explain to people because they're like, that's fucking weird. But to me, being fucking weird is kind of cool, right? Because we're all kind of
Right.
weird.
Right.
So I will always be able to sense like if something is there, if something is passing through, or stuff will happen with technology, it's happened with clients, the screen goes kind of weird, or a song plays that's not on my Spotify, and or an eagle flies over my car and I'm like, that doesn't normally happen, but that I think of someone and I'm like, oh, I think their loved one is this. So weird stuff like that has always like happened. I shouldn't say weird stuff, interesting things. Let's use a better word. It's always happened like growing up, and I'm like, it's whatever, that's kind of like people are going to think it's crazy. So I want to talk about it. But for me, recently I've been asked so many times, like, you're a healer. Are you a healer? And I'm like, yeah, I'm a freaking coach. I heal. Yeah, of course. Right. What do you mean? But then it got me thinking, and I met new people through networking. And as the more I talk to them, the more they're like, that person asked you that question for a reason. It's opening up something. And it got me thinking, I'm like, is this lady correct? Like, wait a
Right.
minute. And
Hold
it got me thinking. And I was like, if I wasn't where I was at in my coaching journey, in my self-development, I wouldn't even slow down and be like, wait a minute.
It's
Is
that
this,
moment of reflection again, where something new has happened. You're like, okay, hold on. Let me look inside now and see what this means to me today.
yes, exactly. Because normally I'm like, okay, whatever, like move on. But when Estelle said to me, and I started to notice the people I met and the journey, and it was very interesting because I met someone recently who didn't tell me about her spiritual like side and her gifts until I was opening up on mine. And I was like, I don't even know where this is coming from because I don't even share often, but I'm like, for some reason, I feel the need to, and I feel comfortable to. But because I shared, she was like, oh, I have a gift too. And I'm like, okay, this other lady told me I'm going to start to meet people. And that was like a few months ago. And since then, I have honestly been more aware of people I'm meeting and like the energy they're giving off, and certain people I'm gravitating towards for some reason. And I'm like, no, there is a reason. Something's happening here. So there's just like a true calling and intuition feeling to go more spiritual, learn more about my own history, all the things that used to scare the shit out of me, to be honest. I'm like, fuck that. I don't want to hear about it. Like, and I don't want nothing that's about ghosts or anything. But since my shift, I'm like reflecting what events has happened in my life that where I notice these things, people, energy, something there. And I have just played it off. And as the more I talk to people, like all of us can tap into that, but not everyone has it naturally.
Mhm.
And I was like, oh, I thought I was just crazy. And then I'm like, well, to be honestly, I was like, I thought I was crazy. And no, like, so I don't talk about it. So the more I've talked about it, it's like, Gal, like you have a gift. And I'm like, holy shit. Like,
Yeah.
you're right, I do. So if I have it naturally, and there's people busting like their ass to learn about this, to tap into this ability, what if I can help people in a different way through my coaching still, but just have this as another service? I'm not really sure what direction is going to take me 100%, but what I do know is I can help people through this, and I've already done it, and I didn't know.
Beautiful.
Now I'm like, okay. And now I started telling my friends, and one of my friends was like, hey, something happened with my kid. And she was freaking out. And I was calm like a cucumber. And I was like, that's never happened before. Normally, I'm like, my heart's racing. I'm super scared. I'm afraid what people are going to think. But with the self-work, I'm like, I don't give a fuck what you think. Yeah, it's kind of woo-wooey, but you're also asking me for a reason because you do believe me.
Exactly.
So I was able to calm her nerves. And what I'm noticing is I'm able to just think of these certain questions that I would normally not even come up with. And I don't even think about it. It's just all of a sudden it's like an intuition to ask the question. So for example, like one of my friends, like, hey, my daughter is talking to a mirror, talking like grandma, and grandma has passed. I have the chills talking about this right now. And she's like, what is happening, Gal? And I'm like, okay. I go, well, I can tell you right now, because I was in her house. I'm like, there's nothing here. I would tell you. I don't sense anything. But, and I just started asking questions, like
Yeah.
literally, like it literally felt like it was just coming out of my ass. Like, where is this coming from? Like, and like, I was just like, it's her birthday. So, then I was like, wait, is it your grandmother's death anniversary or her birthday? She's like, no, no. She goes, my grandma passed before my daughter's even born. I go, wait a minute. It's your daughter's birthday. Your grandma is visiting her because it's her birthday. So nothing to be afraid of. And she goes, because she kept looking at one mirror and she kept talking to the mirror. And I said, who owns the mirror? So it was her fiance. I go, okay, it has actually had nothing to do with who owns it. Sometimes it does. I go, it has nothing to do with, that's just a mirror your daughter can see coming down the stairs. Other mirrors she can't reach. So she just sees her. And kids, like all of us have experienced something that you call like paranormal as a kid, or you hear kids or dogs seeing things. It's because like our brain isn't taking over when we're a kid. Everything's just, like la la land, like, oh wow,
Right.
what's that, and our walls aren't up. So kids naturally see it until you grow to an adult, and you start to block that out because you're justifying it.
Because now our analytical mind takes over and we have to make sense of everything, even when oftentimes a lot of things don't make sense to us and we just don't know what we don't know.
Exactly. And we're afraid of what we don't know, right? So like, does it make sense? Forget it, like don't talk about it. But like something like that, I was like, and I was able to help her just ease her mind. Like, it's okay. I bet you in a day or two, it's going to pass. Because it happened like the day before her birthday, the day of her birthday. And I was like, it's okay. Don't freak out. If you're really afraid, you can just say it out loud. Like, hey, grandma, you're scaring the shit out of me. Like, and she goes, but then I don't want it to happen more. I'm like, you got to remember, like, there's good energy and bad energy, like on that side of the world, just like there is on this side of the world. Like, there's good people and like bad people. But that's like, someone who is for you. That's your grandmother. She's not going to try to hurt you.
Right.
Like, she's visiting with love, even though it's scary because we don't know it.
Mm-hmm. How much just by you talking about this too, just naturally, now you're having other people in your friend circle that you probably never imagined in the beginning would be open to having these conversations and are now asking for help.
Yeah, I mean, because it's interesting because when I first started talking about it, I'm like, well, this is either going to go, they think I'm batshit crazy, or
Right.
they're going to start to share things that's happened to them. So when I started talking about it and the more open, a bunch of them were like, hey, this kind of happened to me. Hey, Gal, come to my house. Like if I buy a house, are you going to walk through it? I'm like, well, I can if you want, but if you already bought it, like, I don't want to scare you and tell you something is here, but there are rituals like I don't know how to do yet that you can do to like get them to leave, or, sometimes they're harmless and sometimes they just don't want you there. I'm like, if you buy a house that's like, built in 1960 something, some shit happened before you bought it. Like, let's be serious, right? So it's interesting because some people are like, nope, nope, I'm not about it. And some have talked to me about it. So just like, anyone you meet, you're going to like them, or you're not going to like them. So I just start to read their energy and like, yep, they're interested. Nope, they're not. But since I opened the door, I allowed them to come to me, because she pulled me aside. My friend was whispering about it. And I'm like, it's okay. Like, talk about it. But I'm okay with it. But out of respect to her, she doesn't want to sound crazy.
Right.
But she knows that, like, I'm like, it's not crazy. I believe you.
I love that you use the phrase, I've opened the door so that they can now come to me and talk about it.
Mm-hmm.
And I think sometimes we do feel exactly like you do. Like, if I keep talking about this, people might think I'm crazy. And this is how I felt even with mindset coaching, which I come from a world and I come from a friend group where they probably think I'm batshit crazy now. That's fine. But again, we're not shoving our beliefs down anybody's throats or anything, but we're just opening the door. We're letting people come to us. And it is amazing to me how many people come from the woodwork you would never expect and say, hey, can you help me though? And I do want to have that conversation.
Mm-hmm. Exactly. Because it's like, I'm not trying to make you believe anything that I believe or do the work that I do, but something I'm saying is sitting right with you somewhere, or it's hitting you somewhere, or it's triggering you too. Because I met someone recently and I just met her only twice. And I was telling my husband, something about me triggers the fuck out of her. I can feel it. She doesn't like talking to me. And he's like, what do you mean? I go, because her comments towards me, right? And I was just like, which is okay. But the old guy would be like, oh my gosh, she doesn't like me and be all sad. But to me now I was like, it's okay. But now I'm even more interested why I trigger her.
I was just going to say, it almost makes you more curious about the person now, not in a way, and this past me would be almost in that battle to win their affection and win their approval. Now it's just like, I wonder what it is in them that I'm not sitting right with, though. I just want to know about that human, what got them and why the energy's off.
Yeah, it's because I'm like, but I felt like she wasn't ready for me to take it there because I can already feel like she had the shield up, and she was just like done talking to me, and everything I was saying was just triggering her even more, even though everything I was saying was positive. So to me, I'm like looking back, I'm like, okay, something's going on in her life, and because I'm so positive, it's triggering the fuck out of her, and she's projecting onto me. But if I ask her right now, I'm going to trigger even more. She's probably going to cuss me out. So time and place. So I'm not going to take it there. But I just started to notice even more, like, let me see how it is the next time I interact with her, because something about me she does not like, or she could just not like me in general, but she keeps talking to me though. So it's something like, I'm not forcing you to come to me. You keep coming to me. So something about me, I'm triggering you, but for some reason you're also attracted and you're coming to me because you want to hear what I have to say, even though maybe kind of pisses you off a little bit too. Like maybe shifts your mind.
This was me, remember, in Austin with Natalie, with one of our other mastermind girls, because, and I had to talk to you about this because I was like, I don't know why she triggers the fuck out of me. And I was like, I want to love her and I kind of hate her and I don't know what to do with all of these emotions and feelings. So like I thought at this point, I had evolved past this, but I've never had really good, strong girlfriends. Like I've always just hung out with guys, and you were that way too.
Yeah.
So literally, you and I having that conversation about Natalie, it reminds me so much. Natalie, if you ever listen to this, I love you now. She's one of my coaches now. I mean, I love the girl, but she triggered the shit out of me because of that phase I was going through of that expansion and just wanting to be so much more me and leave my day job and just be able to just be me. And she was just the epitome of that and the embodiment of that. And it pissed me off, and it had nothing to do with Natalie. And that's something to remember for the audience too, for anybody listening. Sometimes people are going to trigger you because you see yourself in them. It's not about them at all. And so if they get upset, or maybe you guys have a fight, sometimes you do need to bury your own pride and do the internal reflection. And I even had to come up to Natalie because I just avoided her for the first 3 days of the event. I was like, I'm just going to kind of glare at her from across the room. I was like, this is not my most empowered self. And the last day I did, I was like, you trigger me. And I had to figure out why. And I thanked her for that because it made me do that internal reflection to really see where she is shining, that I was still dimming my light. And it was such an aha moment for me because I let that person trigger me, and I allowed myself to kind of go back into those, well, I don't like women phase. And that's not true at all. I've made more friends with women since I've gotten into coaching because I have grown.
Yeah, I love that you said that because, we had that in common where I was like, I just gravitated to her guys because, they're just more chill. But like even Natalie a little bit, dude, I love Natalie and she's helped me so much. And for me a little bit, like even like setting up a call with her, like kind of like triggered me a little bit. And I was like, where's this coming from? But it was because like, I just wasn't willing to open up to women. Like I had a guard up, and I realized that like, she's like sweet as pie, but nothing to do with her, everything to do with me, and me being afraid because when I did open up to women in my life, there was always this judgment, or I was turned against, like, oh, Gal's the one talking shit. And I'm like, wait, we were all talking shit. But then all of a sudden, like, I'm being outcast. So there you go again, right? It's like wanting everyone to like you. And then you were outcast. And it's like, you know what? Fuck girls, hang out with dudes, And then it's like, wait a minute. It doesn't have to be that because everyone's different, and just learning that. And so interesting that someone who actually I felt outcasted me from elementary school, like we reconnected, right? And she was, so wild, like through my stuff, my content, she reconnected on Facebook and was like, you look like you're doing great. And explaining to me how she struggled, like growing up. Wow. And I always saw as like, you guys are so mean to me. I struggled, you know what I mean? But then I was like, oh my gosh, well, like I like sympathized for her. And I was like, wow, and it's opened up the door for us to reconnect. And I had no idea, but she was projecting also, right? Like, pinning on me, trying to fit in. We're also kids. I'm not going to hold that against her,
Exactly. Yeah, it's amazing what we learn. And so that's kind of for everybody too. If somebody around you bothers you in some way, and sometimes it can be your partner, it can be your spouse, it can be your sister, they just bug the shit out of you. Ask why, because a lot of times it's going to be something internal in you that you see that you don't like. And that's what I've learned the most too. If there's someone out there that I really don't like, it's because they're triggering something in me that I'm not free. I'm not free yet. I'm not healed yet. That's okay.
Exactly. And, it's like the whole thing is just slowing down, right? Because we live in the world where it's like, go, go, go quick, like we're posting content. You only have 3 seconds to grab someone's attention, like that's like the world we live in, right? Like, hurry up, like, is that shirt cute? Is the color pop? Nope, next, So it's like really hard to work on yourself and like slow down. So it takes practice. Like,
Yes.
okay, let's just slow down, like go for a walk, let's be out in nature, and just like don't bring your phone, or like you don't have to listen to music. And that was a struggle for me, just to bring that up, like running with no music. I'm like, no way, I gotta listen to just traffic. And then I thought back, like when I would run in middle school and high school, there was no headsets, there was no like Apple Watch. We're
gonna bring our Walkman or something, like
exactly, like carry that heavy thing, like there wasn't anything like that. So it's just like the world we live in, we're used to that, we're used to listening to something. What if we just slow down, listen to ourselves, like
yes.
and like that's why meditating is so important. Like just slow down, be at peace, and all your thoughts, right? Because so many people that I'm sure you work with too, it's like overthinking is like an issue.
Yep.
What are the other people going to think about me? If I do this with my business, what's going to happen? Or no one's going to like me. It's all the same shit that we've been through.
Absolutely.
If you don't slow down, you're never going to actually work on that overthinking, because that's going to be going on forever.
Exactly. Silence, I have learned. Silence is beautiful. It's such a gift, because it is when you can pause, again, when you can slow down and you can look inside, that is when change begins.
Mm-hmm.
I'll hammer that point home until I die, because I think that we're always looking for that external validation. We're looking for external things to look at and pay attention to, and stimulation. And we just don't sit and just look. We don't sit in the quiet enough.
Yeah.
Ask ourselves the important questions about who we are and what we want.
Absolutely. And I say allow yourself to like to change what you want, like to make adjustments. And something that's a huge issue for me is commitment. Like if I'm committed to something, I'm not changing my mind. I am going to stick it out because I don't want to look like a failure. But what if it's no longer in alignment? What if your path is shifting and you're actually hurting yourself now because you're so damn committed that you're missing out on a new opportunity because you're sticking to that, right? Because it all goes back to our childhood. Because for me personally, it's just like my dad not being in my life. And that I was just like, oh, well, if my own dad doesn't have a commitment to be a dad in my life and like me, how can anyone else? Mm-hmm. So I'm going to make sure when I grow up, I'm going to be committed and I'm going to follow through. If I tell someone to do something, I'm going to fucking do it, because I want to like have them feel like how I felt. But if I don't want to do something, I shouldn't do it. If something's no longer in alignment, it's no longer in alignment. It's time to change.
Exactly. And we can change our minds. I'm so glad you said that. Because sometimes too, we get in that, well, I want to be a man of my word, or I want to be, a woman of my word. And if I do want to change my mind, then suddenly we view ourselves as a bad person, or someone that breaks promises or lies or something, or has excuse. It can be seen as such a negative connotation, when really you got to listen to yourself. And if something is not serving you, it's okay to let it go and move on. It's okay to break plans. It's okay to say no. It's okay to be in your house for a day when you need a mental health recovery day and cancel everything. I used to have such guilt and shame around that. Now I love it. I'm like, nope, this is my day. This is just for Brie. I'm going to cocoon. It's going to be great. I'm going to emerge my butterfly tomorrow.
Right. I love it. Like you said, because it's like a struggle, right? Because especially both of us coming from like wanting to fit in, want to be like life of the party. It is hard to like say no, but like, I see it this way. You're saying no to them or to things, but you're really saying yes to you and what you need.
Exactly.
Yeah. Because I would say yes, and people come over and I'm like, why are they all here? Just go home.
I started to get in that phase too, where I was just exhausted. I would almost have to be like, please stop coming to my house.
I just used to coming over,
Yes.
Yeah.
Funny. All right. This feels very complete to me. So I want to ask you one more question. If any listeners out there are going through this self-reflection journey, this I'm going to call it self-awakening journey to start listening to yourself more, what advice would you give them just as your final thought?
Yeah, I love that. My advice would be to dig into it, right? Start digging into it, like, and start seeing like, where you're at in your life. Where do you want to go? Do you need help, right? Reach out for help and start with free content, free workbooks, free podcasts, and see like where you want to go and why do you want to start digging into it, right? Like what sparked you? Maybe this podcast episode sparked something in you, and start to ask why, right? What triggers you? Like, what do you like? And where do you really want to go in your life to? Maybe it's freedom or peace. It all starts within you. And Brie and I can't tell you what to do or, what direction you should go. But for me, it's really to start to reflect, slow down. And something super simple to start is open up a journal. And if you don't have a journal, just a piece of paper. A lot of people are like, what the fuck is a journal? All right, a piece of paper, and just like do a simple journal prompt, like, hey, where am I at in my life? Like, where do I want to go? And why do I want to start self-development? Is it because I'm suffering? Is it because I'm one of those people that talk shit all the time and I want to stop doing that? I start to see where you're at. So then you can start to get all these resources, because if you don't know where you're at and where you want to go, you're just going to be overwhelmed with resources, listening to this person and that person, and starting to mold yourself to those people. I always tell people, like, you want to be you. You don't want to be me. You don't want to be Brie. You want to be who you are.
Yes.
You want to take what we say and like, okay, like, wait, see it as a wake-up call. Things that we say, like, holy shit, like, they're right. Like, what am I going to, like, how am I going to go forward with that? So my advice is to start to reflect on yourself, simple journal prompts, and then start to slowly go into it. Don't overwhelm yourself. Because like someone like me, when I'm interested, I'm digging deep. I'm all in.
I was the same way. I jumped, like, I didn't dip my toes into the pond. I jumped straight to the center of the ocean.
Yes, and I'm trying to swim up,
Yeah, I'm still like, which direction am I swimming? But I'm here now. I'm in the ocean and I love to swim. So
yeah,
we'll enjoy the ride.
Exactly. You have to take it slow, and like it's a never ending journey. So just look at it at your level 1, like just really at the basis and see where you're at, like, and where you want to go, and if reach out to Brie and I if you want, like, hey, who's someone else I can listen to, or I don't know the fuck to start. Exactly. And that's also a stepping stone, like just ask for help.
Oh, and that's such a big moment, a huge stepping stone. Ask for help. We both did. And that's the only reason we met.
Mm-hmm.
Exactly. And now we can change lives.
Exactly. What if we didn't both like have that aha moment, right? We wouldn't be talking now. We wouldn't be having this episode, helping people and like giving back, and it's like, what would our life been like? So whoever's listening now, if you're like, I want to do that too, you can. Right. Or what if I'm like, I just want to work on my mindset. I love my job. That's fucking awesome, right? But what if you could love your job even more and be more of a leader because your mindset is together, right? It's all about how you look at it. So
it's a good reflection too, to even go back and think about for us too, even 2 years ago, had this never happened, like I would still hate women. I would have never gotten to room with you. And it just, we would be in such a different place. And so if you are on the journey and you've been on the journey for a while, take this as your moment to like really go back and take yourself and give yourself some credit for how far you have come. Even when we go through those seasons of feeling very lost and like, why do I do any of this? Nothing makes sense.
Exactly. Okay. I love that you said that.
Awesome. All right. How do we find you on social media so that we can check you out as well?
Yeah. Awesome. So yeah, you can find me on Instagram. So my username is Gao, GAO_PERAINO. So you can find me on Instagram, my name, Facebook, the same thing, on it's called TikTok, and on my website at www.gaoperaino.com. So follow me if you like any of my stuff. You can reach out to me if you need anything. I'm all about just giving back and helping you use your fucking voice. So just stand up for yourself and do what you want to do.
Yes, I love it. Thank you, Gao. I appreciate it as always. So good to see you and good to connect. I'm sure we will do this again as we see your journey continue to evolve and you explore your beautiful, beautiful gifts.
Oh, awesome. Thank you so much for having me. And I appreciate you so freaking much.
Awesome. We will see you next time.